Alright guys, welcome back to another video. So everybody, it is the eve of the 2023 MLB season. I cannot believe baseball is back. This has to be one of the latest uploads in the history of this channel, but I had to get this video in, had to get my predictions for this upcoming season before the season actually starts tomorrow. But by the time you see this video, it probably will be today because it's almost midnight anyway. But regardless, with this sense of urgency, we have to get this video in. It's time for my 2023 MLB season predictions. Make sure you guys comment your opinions. I'm going to give you who I think is going to win every division, and I'm going to rank every team in every division 5-1, where I think they'll finish. I'll predict all the AL and NL award winners, and then the ALCS and NLCS matchup, and then the World Series matchup, and ultimately who I think will win the World Series in 2023. So guys, like I said, make sure to comment your opinions. This might be controversial, hotly debated. No, it will be, not might. But without further ado, it's not fun without it. Without further ado, guys, with all the controversy, let's get into my 2023 MLB season predictions. Here we go. So we are going to start with the AL East. The team I think is going to finish in last place is the Boston Red Sox. Now, I don't think the Red Sox will be terrible, but this team, Justin Turner, they get Yoshida from Japan, they get Adam Duvall, Corey Kluber. These are interesting guys. I like Tristan Casas. They re-signed Devers, but they lose Bogarts. Who knows how healthy Chris Sale will be? I question this rotation. They don't have Evaldi anymore. The pitching's going to be a huge problem, and the hitting, it's not very deep. Trevor Story's also hurt. So ultimately, I think the Red Sox are a last place team in 2023. My fourth place team is the Baltimore Orioles. I owe the Orioles an apology because I had them as the worst team in the league last year. They took one of the biggest and most unexpected jumps I think I've ever seen as a baseball fan. And this year, I think they're only going to get better. They won over 80 games last year, shockingly above 500. They didn't really add anyone significant, but these young guys are ahead of schedule. Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, the top prospect. These guys are going to start making a name for themselves. I don't think they're ready for contention just yet, but you have to think these guys are just going to keep getting better and this team will continue to improve. So I'm going to say the Orioles finish in fourth. My third place team is the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, Tyler Glasnow, the health is a question mark. They lost Kevin Kiermaier, right? But it doesn't really matter because you can always rely on Kevin Cash to get his team ready. You can always rely on the Rays to contend for a playoff spot and to be solid. So I think 89 wins is a safe floor for the Rays, an always reliable, always solid Tampa Bay Rays team. My runner-up in the division is the Toronto Blue Jays, who I have winning 100 games. I love the Blue Jays this year. They lost Teoscar Hernandez, but Vladimir Guerrero and Bo Bichette weren't as good last year in 2022 compared to 2021, but I think both of them are due to have their best years yet. They're only going to get better. They're so young. This rotation is awesome. This team is deep. I really like. The additions they've had. They added Chris Bassett. They got Dalton Varsho to help their catching, and he's going to play outfield. They get Kevin Kiermaier for the defense, and this bullpen's better. This Blue Jays team is ready to win now. But despite winning 100 games, I don't think they win the division because I think the New York Yankees will win 102 games and win the AL East. I love the addition of Carlos Rodon. They bring Aaron Judge back. They bring all their pieces back. They have young prospects coming up like Jason Dominguez and Anthony Volpe and many more. And this is a really good rotation, really good bullpen. This team is even better than last year, so I think they will win the division once again. We move on to the AL Central. It's got to be the weakest division in the AL for sure. My fifth and last place team is the Kansas City Royals. I'm sorry, Royals fans. It's going to be a rough year. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They have some exciting prospects, right? Pasquantino. I love Bobby Witt, right? MJ Melendez and then Salvador Perez will be healthy. But the problem is, as it's always been for a handful of years for the Royals, this pitching staff is not good at all, and it will do them in ultimately to the point where I think Salvador Perez is a likely candidate to get traded at the deadline. I think it's going to be a really rough year for the Royals. They don't have depth at all. They're definitely rebuilding. So I'm sorry, Royals fans. I think the Royals are gonna be a really bad team. I'm sorry. Fourth place, Detroit Tigers. Now, last year, I had the Tigers as a dark horse wild card playoff team. I regret that completely. They were not as good as I thought. The Javier Baez contract does not look good whatsoever. It all depends on how Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green emerge as their top prospects this year. But a lot of their acquisitions last year did not pan out. I just don't see it. They have a lot of work to do. I think they're better than the Royals, but the Tigers are ultimately a below average team in 2023, in my opinion. The Minnesota Twins, some people think they're good enough to win the AL Central. I think they are good enough to win the AL Central, but I think they're just kind of an above 500 team, maybe a playoff contender. I do like that they got Carlos Correa back. They're bringing a lot of their old players back. They have Kepler, Buxton, right? Polanco. Hopefully Buxton's healthy. That's a big thing. I love the trade for Pablo Lopez. I love Duran in their bullpen. It's a good overall team. There's just question marks because of injuries, and maybe some of their depth is in question, but I think they're good enough to win 85 games, in my opinion. Runner-up, Chicago White Sox. Now, a lot of people think the White Sox are the third-place team in this division. I don't see it. I actually think it's a really good thing that Tony La Russa was fired. He did not fit this team whatsoever. They still have so many good players that, when healthy, this team can be a playoff team, and I think they will bounce back nicely. They still have Giolito. I think Lynn will have a better year this year. I think Giolito will have a better year. And then you get Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez. You lose Abreu, but you still have Moncada. You still had a lot of players on this team. Andrew Vaughn is going to fill in nicely, I think, at first base. And you know what? I think this White Sox team can bounce back and go right back to the playoffs in 2023. But my winner of the AL Central is the Cleveland Guardians, guys. It's time we give the Guardians the respect they deserve. This team made the playoffs last year, won their division surprisingly. Terry Francona, I think he's the best manager in Major League Baseball. And then you have the likes of Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan, you had who emerged, Andres Jimenez, and then you get Josh Bell to help hit cleanup behind Ramirez, give him that protection in the lineup. Then you have Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, who's hurt right now, but he did emerge last year. Lot to like about the Guardians. I think they get slightly better in 2023. We move on to the AL West. My last place team, the writing's on the wall, guys. I'm sorry, A's fans. The Oakland A's, I think, will probably be the worst team in baseball this year. There's just nothing to really like about them. Their pitching was horrible last year. Their hitting was horrible. I think they were dead last in both, or right there. I'm sorry. It's going to be brutal for them. In a good AL West, I think the A's win 50 games. I'm sorry. Fourth place, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Maybe it's a little bit harsh to have them only winning 74 games with the likes of Ohtani and Trout, but every year, this is what happens. They disappoint, and I feel like if Trout gets injured, they're even more done. And Rendon, I hope he bounces back, but the ceiling he's not the player he used to be. And the problem has always been their starting pitching. Obviously, Ohtani's great, but what about the rest? What about the bullpen? I know they got Tyler Anderson, but it's just not enough. It seems like the same old story for the Angels, and until they prove me wrong, I'm going to put them as a fourth place team and a non-contender once again. Third place, Texas Rangers. I think the Rangers have had a very, very nice offseason. They go and get Jacob deGrom. They have John Gray. They go get Andrew Heaney. I like the I don't like the bullpen. I'm sorry. I like the starting pitching. This is a very good team. They have good hitters. They get Marcus Semien. They have Corey Seager. This team I think will finish above 500. I am a fan of the Rangers this season. I do question their depth a little bit in their lineup, but I think they're good enough to be above 500. I really do. My runner-up in the division, maybe a shocker for some of you. I think the Astros are a second-place team this year. Doesn't mean they're not great. Okay, calm down. I still have them winning 96 games. I'm just banking on them having a little bit of a burnout. They lost Justin Verlander, which is tough. Altuve is going to be injured for a while. They did get Jose Abreu. Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker are the future of this team. This team's stacked, okay? There's no going around it. But I just think there's one team that's going to finally, pass them in this division, and that's the Seattle Mariners. Nothing against the Astros. Again, 96 wins. But this is the Mariners' time. I think they had a great offseason. I think this is the year they finally surpassed the Astros. Mainly just because I think the Astros, just a little bit of burnout. I really do think they experienced some of that. I have the Mariners winning this division. They made the playoffs last year. They broke that drought. Now they're young guys. J-Rod, Julio Rodriguez is going to keep getting better. They add A.J. Pollock. They get Teoscar Hernandez in free agency. And then they just have a lot of good players. That's a really good rotation with Castillo, Kirby, Ray, Gilbert, and then Marco Gonzalez is still solid. So I'm just really high on the Mariners this year. So I think in a bold prediction, they're going to win the AL West this year. So now we move on to the NL. So we're going to start with the NL East. Who's my last place team? It's got to be the Washington Nationals. They're kind of the Oakland A's of the AL. It's just a complete tear-it-up rebuild, unfortunately. There's not too much to like about the Nationals. Steven Strasburg, it's so unfortunate for him. He's not going to start the year. He's not going to play for a while. Patrick Corbin, he's the opening day starter, but he's a complete shell of himself. There's just not much to like, unfortunately. They do have some prospects. I do like C.J. Abrams, maybe Keibert Ruiz and Mackenzie Gore finally emerge, but still, they're not even close to contention. I'm going with the Marlins as my fourth place team. I'm going to give some respect to the Marlins. I think they got a little bit better. I like the additions of Gene Segura and Luis Arias, and then you have Sandy Alcantara. I like this team. I like Edward Cabrera. I think he's a good prospect. Luzardo. So I think this team is kind of the same as last year with better hitting, so I think they'll be better than last year. I'm going to give them 77 wins. I'm going to give some respect to the Marlins. In third place, I have the Phillies. Now, I didn't expect to have the Phillies as a third-place team for most of the offseason, but Bryce Harper needs the surgery. He's going to miss probably at least half the year. And then Rhys Hoskins tears his ACL. Unfortunately, one of the last games of spring training. They did get Trey Turner. They still have Real Muto. And I really do like this Phillies team overall, but the injuries are going to bite them, I think, in the long term. I still think they're probably a playoff team. I think they win 90 games. But even last year, they didn't even win 90 games last year. They got to the World Series, and it was an incredible run. But do they have a better team than last year? Maybe when healthy, but when not healthy, I don't know. So we'll see. My runner-up in the NL East is the New York Mets. Now, maybe I would have had the Mets finally breaking through and winning the division this year, but there's no sugarcoating that the injury to Edwin Diaz really is terrible. I do love the addition of Justin Verlander to pair with Max Scherzer. They lost Jacob deGrom, but that's okay. I think if I'm the Mets, I trade Jacob deGrom for Verlander any day of the week because Verlander is way more healthy, way more reliable. And then obviously, I like the addition of Omar Narvaez, sorry, my brain stopped working for a second, and Francisco Alvarez, I think, is going to have a good impact, the Mets' top prospect. So I still think the Mets definitely are a playoff team, but the injury to Diaz and the fact that the Atlanta Braves exist is the reason why I don't think they win this division. The Braves are just so stacked. Acuna is going to be back to MVP form. They get Sean Murphy. Michael Harris is going to keep getting better and better. Austin Riley, okay. Eddie Rosario's healthy now. Then you have Vaughn Grissom, who will make his way back up to AAA. You look at the potential rotation when healthy. You have Fried, Strider, who could win the Cy Young this year. Kyle Wright, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson. And then Soroka's going to come back at some point. This Braves team is insane. Definitely a 100-win team, in my opinion. Then we have the NL Central last place team, Cincinnati Reds. They're in complete rebuild. They have some interesting young prospects. I like Hunter Green. I like Ellie De La Cruz. But at the end of the day, this team is going to really struggle pitching, and they're going to struggle hitting, especially in that ballpark struggling pitching. Yeah, they're going to get torn apart. Might be one of the worst pitching staffs, but even the Reds will tell you they're in a complete rebuild, so I don't really expect much from the Reds this year. Fourth place, Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, I don't dislike what the Pirates have done this year. I mean, this offseason. They've had a fine offseason. They got Andrew McCutchen back, and then they have Brian Reynolds. I think Brian Hayes will keep getting better, and I think he's going to have a lot better season this year than before. But, the Pirates, I think they're better than the Reds. They have better hitting. They have more pieces. We'll see what happens to Brian Reynolds, but at the moment, he is a star player, I think. And then, of course, O'Neal Cruz, I think, is going to become a star. So lots to be excited about. And then Roansy Contreras in the rotation. So we'll see. But the Pirates, they have more pieces right now than I think the Reds have, or at least ready to play, ready to win pieces. But they're not, a contender or anything, but they're going to be better than the Reds, in my opinion. My third place team is the Chicago Cubs. I'm going to give them smack dab in the middle, 500 as a record. I'm going to say they go 81-81. Don't sleep on what the Cubs have done this offseason. They did lose Wilson Contreras, but they replaced him with Tucker Barnhart as their catcher. Not as good, but he's still someone. You get Cody Bellinger, Trey Mancini, Dansby Swanson. They got Eric Hosmer. They added Jamison Tyone. So they have interesting additions to this team. And overall, it's a decent, solid team. So I think the Cubs, maybe they have an outside dark horse shot at a playoff spot, a wild card spot. But out of respect for the fact that they're not completely tanking away their season, that they've actually made moves this offseason, tells me that they could be ready to win some games right now. So I'm going to go with the Cubs there. Brewers are my runner-up in the NL Central. They can definitely contend for the NL Central title like they've done in years past. I just don't think they will win because I think the team in first is better. But also, I love Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta as a 1-2-3 in the rotation. I don't love the whole thing that's going on with Corbin Burns being kind of disgruntled with the team. I don't love, and same with Willy Adames. It looks like these guys aren't too happy that they're going to walk soon. So I don't love that vibe. But overall, this is a very solid team. Yes, they lose. They signed William Contreras, by the way. They got Jesse Winker. So these are some good pieces, right? They did lose a couple pieces. They lost Colton Wong, but overall, this is a very similar team to last year. So I think we'll expect similar results. My winner in this division is the St. Louis Cardinals. They won the division last year, and I can actually make an argument that the Cardinals are even a little bit better this year. Obviously, the injury to Adam Wainwright's not great. I'm so excited for this top prospect, Jordan Walker. You still have the MVP Paul Goldschmidt, Arenado, really good overall lineup. This is a very similar team to last year. They did lose Yadier Molina to retirement, but then they go out and get Wilson Contreras. So I'm high on the Cardinals this year. I think they're better than the Brewers. I like the overall vibe of the team. I think they win the NL Central. So last but not least, among the divisions, we have the NL West. Last place, Colorado Rockies. I love some of the pieces on the Rockies, the young guys. I love Ezekiel Tovar for the Rockies. I think he's going to break out as their top prospect. But at the end of the day, even though they have Chris Bryant, hopefully he's healthy, Charlie Blackmon, CJ Cron, the lineup depth isn't there, the rotation isn't there, the bullpen isn't there, so I think the Rockies finish in last place. My fourth place team is the Giants. Now, the Giants, they did some interesting things this offseason. They went out and got Mitch Haniger, they extended Jock Peterson, they got Michael Conforto, but then they also lost Carlos Rodon, so I think this team's decent, but they just don't have enough pieces right now. I do think they're a little better than the Rockies, but ultimately I think they're a below 500 team, and I think they're a fourth place team. My third place team is the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm high on them this year. I'm super high on their future, but I think the Diamondbacks this year are ready to be a winning team, above 500. We all love Corbin Carroll. I think he'll be such a star, and I think right away. And then D-backs, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, pretty good 1-2 punch right there in their rotation. They have Gabe Moreno they get from the Blue Jays, who is a top prospect. They traded Dalton Varsho for him. Alec Thomas could be a star one day. So I just really like the D-backs for the future. And right now, I think they have a lot of good pieces. Still have Ketel Marte. Jake McCarthy's underrated. D-backs finish in the top 3 in the division. So this is what you guys are really waiting for. Who wins the NL West? Who gets second? Runner-up, San Diego Padres. Now, a lot of people have the Padres winning this division. I could definitely see it. They extended Darvish, Machado. They had a great offseason. They still have Snell, Musgrove, who will be back soon from injury. And of course, Tatis will be back. They have Soto. They get Xander Bogaerts. Huge addition. But after the top 4 or 5 hitters and after their top 3 pitchers, there are some questions with their depth. The rest of the rotation is either Michael Wacha, Nick Martinez, Seth Lugo. I do love Josh Hader in the bullpen, but the depth is going to be tested. And for that reason, that's why I think the Dodgers will still win this division. I know it's crazy because the Dodgers have had a horrible offseason, all things considered. I should know as a Dodgers fan. And people are like, well, how are the Dodgers people are going to be like, how are the Dodgers going to win 100 games? You're probably wondering. They'll figure it out. Just trust me, they'll figure it out. They'll still beat the Padres in this division and win the NL West, because in the regular season, Dodgers always find a way. Their young guys like Miguel Vargas and James Outman will step up. So I'm still high on the Dodgers in the regular season. Mookie, Freddie Freeman. I like their overall depth, top to bottom, a little bit better than the Padres right now. So I'm still going to go with the Dodgers. Am I biased? You bet. But I still think they win this game win this division by 1 game to keep it interesting and fend off the Padres. So overall, these are my AL playoffs. seeded 1 through 6 right there. Yankees, Mariners, Guardians, and then the 3 wild cards. I have the Blue Jays, Astros, and White Sox. In the NL, my top 3 seeds are the Braves, Dodgers, Cardinals, and then my 3 wild cards are the Padres, Mets, and Phillies. The same exact 6 teams and 3 division winners from the NL last year. And then in the AL, the only new division winner of the 6 in the MLB this year is the Mariners. I did want to have, I think at least one new team will win the division. So yeah, those are my playoffs. Let's get to the awards. My AL MVP is going to be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He didn't have a great year compared to his 2021 year, but he's so young. And what often happens, I see this happen, when you have a great player who has a great year, then the next year they don't live up to expectations. That third year they come back better than ever. So I think Guerrero will have his best season yet. And in 2021, he had such an amazing year. He finished runner-up to Ohtani in the MVP. So if he's better than that, you have to think he's got a pretty good shot at winning the MVP. My AL Cy Young is Garrett Cole, simply because I feel like Garrett Cole is due. I can't believe he's never won a Cy Young. He's reliable, knock on wood. He's always healthy. You know, he pitches, he's got the volume, the strikeouts. So I think he's going to put it all together this year and finally break through and win a Cy Young for the Yankees. My rookie of the year is Gunnar Henderson. He's the #1 prospect in baseball for the Orioles. He's going to play shortstop. Played a little bit last year, struggled a little bit in spring training. I don't care. Gunnar Henderson is going to take the league by storm. I think he's going to live up to his hype and have a phenomenal season for an Orioles team. He's going to contribute to an Orioles team that has an outside shot at a wild card spot, in my opinion. Last but not least, my manager of the year is going to be Scott Servais, simply because if the Mariners manage to beat out the Astros and win this division, you have to think that they've done a pretty good job. And Scott Servais is already a good manager. I could definitely see him winning the Manager of the Year. Then we go to the NL Awards. My NL MVP. This is, guys, buckle up. This one's going to be a shocker. You're not going to be ready for this. You're going to call me crazy, but I don't care. Here we go. Will Smith. Yes, Will Smith, not the actor, the catcher on the Dodgers. Now, why do I think Will Smith's going to win the MVP? Now, let me tell you why. Because if the Dodgers have lost a lot of pieces. They lost Trey Turner, Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, Gavin Lux out for the year. You know, so if they want to win 100 games, be anywhere close to last year, they need some guys that are their regulars to step up. Will Smith is hitting cleanup. He's 28 years old. He's entering his prime. He's going to need to play basically every day. And with a catcher, you don't need the counting numbers of a position player statistically to win MVP. If he gets 100 RBIs, hits 280, 290, and plays good defense, he might be in that conversation. I think he just has an amazing year. I think he has 100. I think he gets over 100 RBIs. I think he hits close to 300 and just becomes a huge fixture in the cleanup spot for the Dodgers. And if his defense keeps getting better, which it has, voters are going to like him because voters want to vote for a catcher, you know? It's unique. It's different. So for that reason, Will Smith, I'm going with him. My Cy Young in the NL, this one's also bold. I'm going with Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider had an amazing rookie season last year. This year, I think he puts it all together, becomes the Braves' true ace, and with his electric stuff, 103 mile per hour potential velocity, I think he puts it all together this year, and in his second season wins the Cy Young. My rookie of the year, it's got to be Corbin Carroll. Corbin Carroll is going to be phenomenal this season. I could see him hitting 30 homers and stealing 30 bases. That's how good he is. I could see it all happening this year for him, and he's going to be a huge fixture. If he has a great year, rookie of the year season, I could see the D-backs contending for a playoff spot. That's how big of an impact I think he can and will have. My manager of the year is Dave Roberts. Now, my true Dodger bias colors, or just whatever you want to call it, they're showing, but I don't care, because if the Dodgers win 100 games, beat out the Padres, and win this division, you'd have to think Dave Roberts gets some manager of the year consideration, because I feel like most people think the Padres will win this division, and Dave Roberts, you know, a lot of people don't like him. I'm a Dave Roberts defender, at least in the regular season. You can't deny he gets his team ready to play. Players love to play for him. He was runner-up in Manager of the Year last year, so even though the Dodgers won 111 games, he still didn't win. I think he's due to win. So those are my awards. So this video is almost 25 minutes long. So let's hurry this up a little bit, though. But this might be some of the most exciting parts of the video. The ALCS, we're going to start with that. What's my ALCS? Mariners and Blue Jays. Now, Blue Jays, I have them as a wild card team, but just to make it fun, I think they beat the Yankees. They get to the ALCS to face the 2 seed Mariners. just to keep it fun. This was a first-round playoff matchup this last year. I think these two teams are young, but they're ready to win now, and they keep getting better. They both break through. They both get to the ALCS. My NLCS is going to be Braves and Dodgers. We've seen this story before, but I just think these are the two best teams. I think the Dodgers are still depth-wise a little bit better than the Padres. I really do. And the Padres beat the Dodgers last year. I think the Dodgers will try to get revenge if that is a playoff matchup. I just don't see the Padres beating the Dodgers 2 years in a row. Am I completely biased? Absolutely. Regardless, here's my World Series matchup. Ready for this? All right, here we go. Blue Jays and Braves. Okay, so Dodger bias, it's a little bit, I'm not completely biased, okay? I think the Braves are the best team in the NL this year. I think the Blue Jays could be the best team in the AL. Let's keep it interesting and make it a Blue Jays-Braves World Series. So last but not least, to end the video, who do I think wins the World Series in 2023? In my own humble opinion, I think the Toronto Blue Jays win the World Series. They're a dark horse team. I don't think they should be expected to win the World Series this year. They might be a little early, but just expect the unexpected. The Astros were expected to win the World Series last year, which tells me maybe we have a more unexpected team that's due to win the World Series. I'm going with the Blue Jays. I like them a lot. Guerrero, Bichette, both will have MVP caliber seasons. I love their rotation, their depth. It's all awesome. So I'm going to go with the Blue Jays to be my World Series champ in 2023. So guys, this video is way too long, but I had to get it out before the regular season starts for Major League Baseball. Make sure to comment your opinions, guys. I'd love to hear them. Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're a baseball fan and you haven't subscribed already. Think you'll like the channel. And guys, thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you all in the next one.